All right. It's Friday afternoon here in Atlanta. 85 degrees, sunny. I'm looking chance of well, actually it's just saying mostly sunny. Usually we get like 5 minutes of hell, severe thunderstorm, and then it goes away. But I don't even think we're gonna get that. Wow. Nice July. What is it, the 17th? Something like that. Anyway, it is small biz breakdown time, and you know how we do it. Gather a whole bunch of smart folks around in Cold Rice, and we talk about all sorts of things, small business related. We try to do that. We try to keep it that. And we usually start by going out west to Oregon. We really didn't expect to do this today because, you know, we were expecting Leland from Oregon to have some stuff to do. But as fate would have it, he's able to join us. So, hey, Leland.
Hey, Brent, good to be here. It's you're talking thunderstorms. We got ourselves a nice little thunderstorm. About 17,000 lightning strikes in the area.
Damn.
And then the fires came.
Wow.
Lots of fire. Yesterday I was driving and it's just like within the course of an hour, it was all clear. And then like an hour later, just you couldn't see like half a mile away because the smoke was so thick.
Damn. Well, look on the bright side of things, which I don't know how you do when you have that much. Anyway, we're just glad to have you. I know it was kind of unexpected, but yeah, we're glad to have you here.
It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Now we get to move a little further east to that mystical magical place. Nah, it can't be that mystical magical place because there's already a mystical magical place. But before we get to the mystical magical place, we have to go through Gary, Indiana, where the one and only Pierre is joining us. Hey, Pierre.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. Although it is smoky here thanks to the Canadian wildfires. So we're trying to decide what sort of barbecue flavor we are, Still deciding, some people think we're Montreal barbecue seasoning because of the smoke. And other people say, well, I got to represent Illinois. I got to represent Indiana. You know how the states are with barbecue. So,
well, look, I live in Georgia, the South. I mean, Texas, there's Memphis, there's North Carolina, Texas. I think I already said that. It gets really serious around these parts. So I totally understand. But maybe get some Canadian bacon since it's coming from. Anyway.
Yeah.
Say that. All right. Moving a little further east. Now we get to the mystical and the magical place that is Medina. She is the one and only Madam Mic Drop, Even a Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Great to see you. I'm in my new temporary on again, off again place of work, also known as my mom's condo. So I've been doing lots of estate work, and I have also been flipping and reframing the contest. You unfortunately got an accidental picture, but like, can I just say, older people, and I am an older person, but I've got like, how long have we been in the States? 55 years and thousands and thousands and thousands of pictures in bins. So I have like an idea for folks. These are ideas that have been popping up for me. One of the things that I've been doing, because that is a trudge, I'm kind of scanning them in because I'm curating these images. But something real fun that's like a family tip is when you are cleaning out your images, and if you know who people are or you can guess or something like that, share them. I have been DMing, as you can see, I've been DMing folks like, oh my God, I think this is you. It's like, these are my friends who are all like in their 60s, and I'm finding pictures of them like when they were 8 in folklore costumes and like all kinds of crazy. It's so fun.
Well, I'm glad you're, having some fun while doing all that. But I think I'm just going to move on because you mentioned older people, and I thought it'd be a good time to bring on the cold one and the bold one. He is John Colder Ice Lawson.
You're annoying. Just annoying.
I thought that was a really nice introduction. I mean, I segued right off of what Even has said, and She set it up perfectly. I couldn't have done it better myself, and I just took the ball and ran with it and passed it to you.
Whatever.
See, you're in a mood.
Yes, I'm in a mood.
All righty. Well, it's the mood time for asking you guys the regular thing I ask you every single week. A lot has happened in a week. We're definitely back in a war, I think. And I guess we're actually back in 2022 after last night. It feels like we're back in 2020. Anyway, who wants to tell us how they're feeling this past week? No volunteer. Oh, Ramon's not here to volunteer. He usually would beat that one up. All right, I guess I have to pick somebody then. I'm going to Leland.
My week has been a little bit more heads down. It's been a little busy, cleaning and stuff like that. And well, one thing that I saw, interesting news piece, and it's about Starlink, and they've announced their V3 satellite, which is going to have higher bandwidth. But the thing that, and I don't think it's gotten as much attention as I think it should have, is that you're going to be it's going to give the ability to give 5G internet to unmodified cell phones. So that to me is, I think, probably one of the bigger like, it could totally upend like the cell phone industry on its head to be able to, it's just like Apple, Android, any kind of phone that has 5G can just connect to these satellites, and you don't have to have any special equipment or anything like that. And you can get about 150 megabytes download speed. I mean, could you imagine like cell phone towers not being necessarily a thing in the coming years? I'm just thinking that would be like really exciting. That's the kind of piece of news that kind of stuck out to me a little bit, is all this V3 going on. And it is kind of interesting. I know that they're of SpaceX, that the stock went down below.
It's IPO. Yeah.
But it is interesting that even still with that, like, they are like leaps and bounds ahead of like Amazon Leo, which would probably be like the next biggest competition to them. And then it's like, well, yeah, then we're going to do 5G internet. But yeah, besides that, it's just been more about moving and less about like what's going on in the small business world, unfortunately.
Yeah. And let's face it, Elon has been ahead of Jeff Bezos for the past decade, from satellites to space shuttles to, well, you name it. He's actually just been beating him like he's a piñata the last decade and stuff.
Well, there's other too. I mean, with the Teslas and the technology that went into that, and then there's a lot of other companies that are trying to catch up to him. But it's kind of hard when it's like, you started the race and you're 10 miles down the road.
Yeah. That's interesting. All right. Who wants to go next?
Go Ivana. I'll call on Ivana.
Yeah, call.
Call on me. I think I'm going to reference something that I think we put in the chat this week. Did my image just switched? It's very annoying, the video.
Your video actually looks good.
You look good.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So I think we put in the chat NFIB survey and optimism going up, and I made this comment about the boiling frog and a new normal, and how and all this to say that the second thing I saw soon after that was actually an article coming out of the UK, where their optimism index has gone like down, like way down. And it occurred to me, especially as the World Cup has been winding up, just the enduring optimism of the American entrepreneur. It never ceases to amaze me. And I think there really is something there, but to be really practical, it just landed to me as if entrepreneurs are like, okay, let the world, like, okay, economy and world, you do you, boo. I'm going to do mine. And that's kind of what landed for me after reading that. All right. Am I supposed to call on someone? Are you supposed to call on someone?
Yeah, go ahead. You do you, boo.
All right, John, I want to hear from you.
Well, we are wrapping up our fun time with soccer in Atlanta, and it has really been an absolute boom for the city. So I'm looking forward to hearing the outcome for our city, and that's kind of exciting. We got through it.
With no real incidents either.
No real
Kind of
incidents.
amazing when you think about it. I haven't heard of any incidents really at all, except for, the resident calling FIFA to tell them to change a call. But other than that, there's been no incidents.
Nope.
There have been serious incidents, and I don't even know how you can blow past that. Did you hear of the outrage that happened in Boston? I mean, they ran out of beer. The Scottish people drank Boston freaking dry.
Wow.
And if
who would
you're a
have thought
small
that?
business owner, right? But you gotta love that. You
If have
just
not
really gotta.
drank with Scottish people, like for real Scottish people, you don't know
Yes,
drinking.
I have.
Well, there's
I
the flip
absolutely
side.
have.
The flip side
Yeah.
is Irish folks are pretty good drinkers too, from what I hear.
It's the red hair.
I don't know.
All right. Well,
But I just thought that was my favorite thing. I loved watching them. All right, go ahead, John.
No, that's it.
yeah, he was supposed to go down and check out the hot new spot that is, I guess, a part of what's going on with the whole Atlanta World Cup experience. This the new Cosm thing we have, and weren't they doing? One of our guys was down there doing his thing. What was he here? Wasn't he here to kind of do something with that FIFA experience in Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, he was working the whole week at Cosm. It's been a big, draw.
Atlanta is the place. That's all I'm going to say for any kind of big stuff.
Whatever.
Except for Falcons, because they can't seem to win a playoff game.
But we're full.
Anyway, Pierre, I think you're the only one left.
Yeah. This week was interesting. I think the big thing I noticed a lot of, I've been starting to play a little catch up on all the stuff with the World Cup, but mostly around, I guess, small businesses that have kind of created this sort of festival event. I know that a lot of times, I think for this particular time, I think it showed a lot of people coming together and enjoying themselves, despite a lot of things that have gone on. Particularly in this country, a lot. I thought it was sort of funny that people were that this drinking story was funny, and the what was it they were collecting at the airport? I can't remember what it was. Salad dressing. People were trying to bring salad dressing back through the.
Is it salad dressing or in particular? What was the thing that ranch? It was ranch. Yeah.
It's one of those whimsical things that I think sometimes we need. I think particularly for small business owners, particularly now, just the idea of of a spirit of people just enjoying themselves, and it'll be. What I'm really interested in is hearing the economic impact. I know we're kind of early because we're still gotta get through the finals of World Cup and assess, but I'm interested in seeing how that impacts small businesses in particular, because I know Baum, I think he was the former mayor of Chicago. He kind of had this conversation that went viral about why Chicago didn't host a World Cup, and he had concerns with FIFA. But to me, just the event itself, having it being more organic. I was listening to CBS LA talk about how restaurants were gathering people together on a regular basis, people cheering them on, whether you're Argentina, Mexico, and so forth. I think those sort of stories, I think, were more worthwhile. And I'm really interested in seeing how much that energy fickled into some sort of economic impact for restaurants and businesses that really got into the spirit this time around. That's my 2 cents.
I think the U.S. I guess the whole North America, U.S., Canada, and Mexico are all a part of this, right? I mean, there's some stuff going on in Mexico, and I guess there's. So I mean, you have to wonder. We work so well together to pull this off, and yet we have this tension at the very top that is talking about trying to colonize Canada to be the 51st state, and Mexico is still, I guess, supposed to be paying for the wall. I have no idea how that works. But when you don't have that to deal with, you just have the regular folks. Things come off really well. I wish we could kind of learn some lessons from that and move on.
Yeah, particularly with Chicago, there was I gotta go back and get the actual comment, but the impression that Mayor Emanuel, I keep calling him Bomb, is Mayor Emanuel had talked about was how there was a dispute between whether Chicago should pay for certain things versus FIFA, and FIFA wanted the city to pay for it, and he was saying no at the time, and that runs counter to like you just said, natural events that is a little bit more local hosted. How do people benefit from that? Basically, maybe that's a better fit for people these days. So,
damn, I didn't know FIFA wanted Chicago to pay for the wall. That's kind of news to me.
It had that wall. Yeah, it was some dispute about how much that the city was going to outlay for hosting the event. That was and Emmanuel was not having it. He thought in his eyes, he thought that it would be detriment to the city in the long term, which plays into a larger picture of, for cities, you want events obviously to bring people around and gather up all this energy. But at the end of the day, who flips the bill for certain things like cleanup and licensing and that type of thing? I mean, where does the money really go to? Does it really get into the small business owner's pocket, basically? And I that sort of tension seems to be coming up more frequently these days.
All right, that's some good stuff. Somebody had something to say?
I was gonna say I love the stories of where FIFA were covering up like Heinz ketchup and the Franz mustards and Gillette like stadium, they draped a thing over, and so like the response is like Gillette is like, okay, well, here's our new logo, and it's basically the Gillette logo draped over. Or Levi's, I think stadium did that or something like that.
Yeah, they had to take Mercedes-Benz off of our stadium, and they ended up wrapping the entire stadium.
Well, that's because FIFA made deals and they were trying to keep the branding that was already in place. Oh, come on, man.
It basically cover up any if you aren't paying any money to FIFA, you've got to cover up your branding.
Ugh.
And it doesn't even matter if it's hot dog.
And that's, come on, man. Yeah, all right, whatever. Now you made it. We had a great story going, and leave it to Leland to get a bad taste in our mouth at the end of that. Jeez. All right.
Well, we can cover it up. Just kidding.
All right.
Under the rug. Sweep it under the rug.
All right. So here's a serious question for y'all. As small business people, do you care about going back to 2020 and figuring out the election stuff? This is serious. Do you care?
I want to go back to 2000 and figure that election stuff out.
Well, at least there's hanging chads and imagery.
We're going to go back. Let's go all the way.
But I'm just saying, we're 6, almost 7 years past this, and we are still hearing about this. Does anybody really care about 2020 at this point, when there seems to be so many things that we should be focused on, like affordability, like healthcare, like tariffs, like all that? Shouldn't we be focusing? Wouldn't you want your government to focus on that as opposed to going back 6 years at this point? Yeah, wouldn't that seem logical at this point?
It's all within the eyes of the beholder.
What? Oh, well, I'm being serious here. We've got
Really?
yes,
you
I'm
be
being
serious?
serious because
How can you be
people
serious?
because we're actually kind of in a war and people are they're shooting again, so that means there's going to be some people getting killed again. We've got dude spending billions of dollars on stuff like pools that seem not to be keeping algae out and arcs and putting his name on everything. All this stuff kind of costs a lot of money, and the taxpayers are the ones paying it. Wouldn't we be better off with all the focus and attention being on how do we improve the lives of citizens as opposed to a lot of time and effort still going back?
The rational answer is yes to me. The realistic answer is that we knew this was going to happen at some point, and it was just a matter of what remix was being added. And I think the whole commentary he brought up about China is another rehash of that, basically. But I think we're getting a little bit smarter. NBC and no, was it NBC? I think NBC and ABC didn't air. Yeah, thank you, John. They didn't. Yeah, they didn't air that at all. And even the experts are coming back are on data are claiming that the data that Trump is saying that was stolen by China is not something that would actively. I'm trying to think of the right phrasing. It's not something that would actively change someone's opinion about an election necessarily.
It's not even anything new. He literally brought up stuff that was already known, which is what I'm saying. The attention and the focus and all the effort and energy seems to be on stuff that has really, even as a small business person, nothing that really seems to benefit you, let alone being a citizen. I'm just wondering why, if all this is going on, and I forget the numbers you were mentioning, Leland, how can small business people be that optimistic when there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of things pointing to help them? I don't get it.
That's why they're optimistic, Brent. It's like you got a person up there talking nonsense, and they're like, we cannot listen to this anymore. And that's why they are. This is the only answer I can have, right? So, but just using the just using the NFIB population, I mean, that population of that survey does tend to skew more conservative. I don't know how much. It's a huge, huge population that they survey. And I'm sure that there is a mix, but just in general, you need to know where your data comes from. It does tend to skew more conservative because they tend to lobby on with like the chamber, and they just tend to. I'm just from the content that I get from them about what they're lobbying on and what they're working on. That's just what it looks like. But you could definitely say that they are like, that is nonsense. I heard somebody say this, like, that is nonsense and that is noise. And I think practical small business owners, and I'm sure John, who works with a lot of people, Leland, you guys, I work with like just real people trying to run a business. Maybe they got landscaping, maybe they're financial planners or like whatever. They're just doing work. Most small businesses are doing the work. And they don't have time for this nonsense.
So they're basically,
and that's why I think that
completely just ignoring it. Now they've moved on to say, okay, we got to do this for ourselves. We can't expect anything. And that's why they're optimistic. I'm just trying to make sure I understand that.
Because that trend right there tracks, because when I've done my own in-depth interviews as well, and that's been confirmed by other types of surveys, when I have asked people, like I've done my interviews or I've done my surveys, and let's say I've had like an entire population of people said that they are feeling more optimistic, and I've called them individually and I said, I noticed that you said that you're feeling more optimistic. Can you say more about that? And there's something that they all had in common. First and foremost, the people who are feeling, I'm just talking about my population now, so let's be clear. The several hundred people who answered a certain way off of my audience. Let's be clear about that. They've been in business for a while. That means that they have honed in their process. They know what works. They know their audience. They know what they're selling. They know what offer they're making. And they have like kind of, what do you call it? Like honed it in. Like they know what they're doing and now they are doing that thing. So you've got experience, you've got a process, and you have them doing that thing. Those are also the folks who are sort of feeling more comfortable with playing around with AI, optimizing their AI, and they're sort of walking along on the AI learning curve. So those folks are like ahead of the game. I don't think that's a large population, but those are just the anecdotal stories that I have heard. Those are the threads that have something in common. When we talk about, and if and when we did talk about these larger economic issues, they're just like, I cannot pay attention to that noise. Right? I have to work with what I'm working with. I have to deal with what I'm working with. I have to raise prices because the price of my product has gone up. How am I going to raise prices? How am I going to do this effectively, customer by customer?
So they've given up all hope of anything helpful coming from the government, and they're saying, all right, we're just going to have to push through, and that's where the optimism comes in.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think that when it comes to businesses, you're in your business. You're looking at, okay, am I bringing in enough, am I full up for the next 2 months, with appointments? Am I bringing in enough money to be able to pay all my employees? If I am I doing okay? Am I not stressed about money? And if those answers come back as like, you know what, I'm doing okay, then the optimism is, it doesn't matter what's going on, in my neighborhood, in my state, in my country, in the world as a whole. As long as I'm doing well, I'm doing well. And I think that that's what, when you got to look at like the optimism index of how people are doing when it comes to like this small business community, that's what you got to really look at. It's not necessarily about, how the world as a whole, or because it's like, you could go by state. I mean, I live in Oregon, which is kind of hard on businesses, and Washington, and California, they're all kind of leaving, for like Texas because of taxes reasons and stuff like that. You could probably see optimism may not be necessarily that good in this area. But it's all about like your business as a whole. That business could move from point A to point B and then all of a sudden be good, or they may be able to make it stick in or in where they're at, and just they're fine. So it doesn't, to a certain extent, matter what's going on the outside. Sometimes it does.
I think for small businesses, I think when they do get concerned about the politics, it's more about policy. Something similar to what happened with Polestar. That's the branch of Volvo that now they are not able to sell their cars in the United States because of componentry, and that in fact it's a Chinese company that owns them, Geely. They've owned Volvo for years. The interesting story is that there's one of the models, I think, which is an SUV, is supposed to be built in South Carolina. So they're trying to figure out how to circumvent that. But as of right now, they don't have a lineup at all. And that came from policy. And I think when small business owners look at, I agree with the back of what Leland has said and what Ivana has said. There is that optimism comes from looking at, the immediate, tasks at hand that you're doing to deliver your services or offerings to your customers. But I think when it comes to policy, that tends to be more of, it feels like it could be I wouldn't quite say long range, but you are looking at, how could this possibly impact me? If I'm, making plans to produce a product and I have chips are being made by a manufacturer in China, I'm impacted by this administration's decisions on whether or not I can have access to that production source. So I think a lot of times what small business owners are looking at is more this, what are the policies that may impact me? Maybe not today, but it might impact something in an immediate forecast where I might have to make a huge adjustment. And I think if you're not looking at that, I think it's not going to say it's easier to be optimistic, but you kind of need to be optimistic to kind of keep yourself plowing and going ahead at some level.
Speaking of, oh, look who it is. It's John Ferraro, another one of our longtime friends and longtime entrepreneurs. One of the founding fathers of contact management, which with Goldmine, and it turned into CRM. So good to hear from him. And the most important part, he's a Rams fan. That's right, Rams fan. We really appreciate that here. Good. And John, yeah, we need to talk. I haven't talked to you in so long. Yes. That's right. All right. Speaking of policy, somebody dropped in our little private chat, and whoever did, maybe you can explain it because I'm not going to get it all. But somebody found an article where apparently there was some small business, I forget where they were, but they put up a sign. I believe the sign said, "If you smell like weed, you can't come into our store." All right, Pierre, talk a little bit about that.
That was me. This is a store. It's a Dairy Queen not far from me. It's in a town called Chesterton. Very nice, quiet area. They posted a sign that kind of got some attention about how customers behave. And one of the things that they didn't want are customers who smell like marijuana coming in to order their food. And it kind of it caught my attention because I think this is really the first time I've ever seen a store imply that they won't serve somebody who smells like weed, basically. And so it makes me think, well, how frequently has this been a problem? Because clearly, if it's frequent enough, the store had to respond to it. And I'm not sure exactly how. And I'm kind of curious on why like that particular Dairy Queen, or if other Dairy Queens have picked that up. But it interests me because it's sort of this, at what point as a business owner do you there's a tension between having customers come in and you as a business owner, you want to greet them and accept them for whatever it is that they're for the most part what they're wearing or doing and that type of thing. You don't want necessarily, I don't think you want to necessarily police that in a certain way. But the flip side is you still can't, the old adage, no shirt, no shoes, no service. There's some things you need to have as a bare minimum. Go ahead.
One of the things I checked out the article, it was pretty interesting. But as I always find, I find the comment section more interesting than the actual story.
Yeah.
And the very first comment I saw had nothing to do with weed, but they're like, before you get to the weed smell, can we get a sign up for people who just smell bad? We don't want you smelling in our store. And it seemed to be a big conversation around not the smell thing, as in addition to the what are the things that as small business owners how can we deal with stuff that we don't want to be dealing with in our stores, but we don't want to alienate customers. And that smell thing seemed to be a big deal for a lot of companies that I guess have restaurants or fast food or quick trips and stuff like that. I guess there's a lot of bad odor customers.
Smell a business opportunity for all of those people.
No pun intended, right?
All pun intended, right? Because if you're going to be talking about people who smell like weed, you could be talking about people who smell like smoke or who smell bad or who blah, 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 blah. Sounds like a gap in the marketplace. Like Leland was talking about, whether it's like people who are gamers or Yu-Gi-Ohs or like whatever. Come, don't shave. Bring your bags of chips. I will take you. We will just be wearing masks or something. I don't know.
Some people smell like bags of
masks.
Yeah, I think when I say like policing too, it's like when like the body odor would be that could almost be subjective in some way. Somebody, maybe you have a manager or somebody who's a cashier who has an extra sensitive nose and they happen to pick up something. I think as a store owner, like I said, there's a little bit of tension. You don't want funky people coming to your store, obviously. Unless there's a really good beat in there, basically.
That's that's the quote of the week there, Pierre. We don't like funky people in the store.
But at the same time, you don't want something so disruptive that it's starting to drive other customers away too. And we've seen this, ranging from smoke and it's anything from smoking. The one that I should have found that I didn't go back to find was a video of, I think it was a federal officer or federal someone high ranking that was saying, hey, we need to kind of encourage people to dress a little bit better when they get on the airplane. People are coming in their PJs, sometimes in their slippers, and not really, which is a high contrast to going back to like when the golden age of airplanes, where you were given a nice meal and you got to see people, ideally in a suit. It was an event. It was a thing to do. There is a tension, I think, that business owners have to watch, because on one hand, again, like I said, you don't want funky people in your store, but you also don't want, you don't want, I think you want to be careful about policing every little thing too, because that has a cost as well.
What if you're in a store, you're a store owner, and you have, like, let's say 5 or 6 people in the store, and there's one, unfortunately, funky person in the store, and the other customers are suffering because of this, to the point where they tell you, hey, look, can you do something about this? Because we don't want to be coming in the store and have the funk hit us as soon as we welcome. You welcome by the funk more than anything else. What if other customers start to bring it to you? How do you handle that thing?
It is tough, because that, it's like I think of like construction workers, roofers, and stuff like that. There's a sub shop that I love to frequent, and there was a time to where we sat down and it hit us, and it's just like, now let's move over there. Because they're construction workers, and it's really tough because that's their job. It's not like they're just naturally nasty smelling, because they don't bathe or anything like that. They worked for 4 hours, they're having their lunch, and I unfortunately had to reap the consequences of that. And I just moved over to, a couple of tables over, but still, you don't want to, turn, to where it's not necessarily inherently their fault. I mean, maybe they could put on a little bit more body spray or something. I don't know, but you don't want to, punish those kind of people. What Evano was talking about, you get like the gamers and the funk, and I've gone into a couple of like midnight releases or tournaments or something like that. It gets bad. Like that yeah. And what she was referencing was basically a card tournament that got put on hold because the owner of the card shop in Oregon said, you guys reek to high hell. And it's not just one of you guys, it is multiple. It's like 75% of you guys just smell, and your combined odor is just so bad.
And that is a thing. That is a thing. So I shared your article with my son, who is like a complete nerd in D&D and all the stuff. And I said, hey, look at what came up in my chat. And he's like, oh, Mom, it's just like that. It's disgusting.
Mr. Lawson, you've been awful quiet around the funk. I mean, what's your thoughts here?
I'll just go back to New York cab days.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Thanks for that, John.
Mm-mm.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
I mean, it's their store. They have the right to do that if that's what they want to post. And I mean, fine. And you smoke a little weed, you want some ice cream.
Yeah.
We got a drive-through. Use the drive-through.
It's like, use the drive-through. There you go.
Yeah. And all of it, I think, is dealing with behavior too. And I remember in New York, I mean, it was a Barnes and Noble off of Union Square. They would tape up the outlets at the coffee areas and the little cafes. And there's some places that I don't know if they still do this now. I hope they don't. But the reason they did this is like circa 2009. I think people coming in with a laptop. They didn't want people coming in and camping out at the outlets and but it's going to be thought that it would take up space and not have enough time for their customers. But another I can't remember the article on this too, because the article came out like within a year of that. But one of the counterpoints that came up is like, who is it that will order that second muffin, that second cup of coffee? You want people to linger around just enough to kind of generate a little bit of extra revenue. They're usually those people that will get that second muffin, second coffee. So there's always this balance of, I think for every business owner, you have to think about customer behavior. If I'm doing X to prevent something, what does that do for something else? And I think for everything, whether it's outlets or funk, what is it that you need to do to kind of keep things together? So.
But I'm gonna jump in here. I just feel like I feel like on behalf of Ramon, I feel like I'm channeling Ramon right now. But honestly, I'm going to turn into like the grizzled old lady that I am, and that is, we like John had said, use the drive-through. How about a little bit of personal responsibility on these kinds of things? Because that's why we can't have nice things. Because people think that they can do whatever the heck they want to do, and they can. But you have to understand, the argument when I was growing up and be like, it's my life. And they're like, it's not your life. People are looking at you. It's my life because you're mine, right? Like parents would say, or all the types of things, or your rights, your fists ends where my rights begin, or on my face, or whatever that kind of thing goes. All I'm saying is we impact other people. You're moving through the world impacts other people, and how you occur in the world, whether it's what you're wearing or how you're smelling, that is a personal responsibility. And I don't even know. I yell at my 26-year-old grown man son on a daily basis. Like, ew, like, are you really going to go out like that? Or, that kind of thing.
Mom.
So,
yeah, you just put them all out on Front Street.
I know.
Yeah, everybody knows now.
To John's point, I think that a small business owner has the right to do whatever they want, who they want to serve, what they want to serve. You're a private business. That is the good side of being private. The fact that you control your experience and the experience of your customers. That is the good side of being a private business, right? The bad side is there's no one there to help you. Like I said, there's opportunities out there.
By the way,
people who want to create certain spaces.
If you want to see some of the things that happen to people when they go to a store and act the fool or smell the fool, I don't know how that works, but just go on to YouTube. And put in arrests, like restaurant arrests, or you will see some of the craziest things you will have ever imagined people doing. This one, I guess I'll tell you the latest one I saw. Chick was at a Walmart, and apparently her boyfriend worked at a Walmart, not the one she was in. He wasn't working then. And apparently Walmart employees were getting like a 20% discount. She went to the store, got a whole bunch of stuff, went to the register, and was demanding the 20% discount because her boyfriend worked at a Walmart, and she would not leave. They had to call the cops on her, and she still wasn't leaving. She said, I just want the discount. Lady, there is no discount. They had to drag her out, and she went kicking and screaming into the cop car after being she's like maybe a $1.05. It took 3 grown men to get her down on the ground, handcuffed, and into the paddy wagon. Unbelievable stuff. I don't know what the smell was, but it was just unbelievable.
That's what I was gonna say. Just set up a lawn chair at Walmart and just popcorn. Maybe not popcorn.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe some Dairy Queen. You get no. All right, I got one last thing, and this is all due to Madam Mike Drop herself. This is as soon as I saw it, I was like, she's been saying this for months now. So I was stopped in my tracks by a headline. It said, don't just think that AI is after your jobs. AI will fire your customers too. I was like, damn, that sounds pretty good. I gotta look into this. So I got this little clip, and it's inspired by Madam Mike Drop, Even Taylor. Let's check this out.
A few weeks ago, I read a paper called The AI Layoff Trap by two professors, Jerry Tsoukalis and Brett Falk. It's a warning about a possible future where AI is good enough to do a lot of our jobs. Companies would start replacing workers to cut costs, but those workers are also customers who spend money at businesses. If every company fires a lot of people, eventually hardly anyone is left with enough money to buy anything and keep the economy going. What scared me most, though, wasn't the idea that mass layoffs could happen. It was that even if CEOs see this crisis coming and desperately want to avoid it, they might not be able to.
Waiting for the firms to figure it out for themselves, I think, is the worst possible thing we can do. The CEOs are coming out, from these foundational labs, and they're constantly saying AI is going to replace everyone's job. And the main question we wanted to understand is, who's going to be left to buy products if everyone gets automated and replaced by a robot?
I've been hearing Even to say that for at least 3 or 4 months. I could not believe when I saw it. I was like, wow, I wonder if they've been watching us, because Even has been saying the exact same thing.
I've been asking this question from not before AI, but a lot of other things. If you're not paying your employees enough, if you're not, you know what I'm saying? If all the things that we talk about. My biggest question for the last year and a half or so has been who is going to buy your stuff? My most popular articles right now are articles about how, excuse the phrasing, but how to get your customers to buy your stuff when they don't have any money. I think that is the biggest theme right now on DIY marketers.
So I want to turn to the resident AI person. I guess we don't have that, so we'll go to John. Is it too late? Or is this the train already too far down the track for that not to happen? Because it seems like the train is already pretty far and moving pretty fast. Where are we with this? Do you think, in your estimation, I know this, but do you think anybody that is heads down with AI, trying to figure out how to use it, how to make them more efficient, how to cut costs, how to maybe cut employees, are we already too far down the line with that to not see what might happen come what even saw coming 4 or 5 months ago? If we don't have, Henry Ford basically built Ford on selling Fords to the people working on the lines, because he made it affordable for them to buy. So he had a built-in audience. Are we going to lose all of that and not just fire companies, but fire customers employees, but fire customers because we think we're going to be better off putting AI in and employees out?
Well, I think we spend way too much time on the AI component. I don't think necessarily that AI will be the one. It'll be robots. That's the one I think we need to be more aware of, because once those come online, I do think a lot of things that we were doing manually won't be needed anymore. So
isn't it just a combination of non-human stuff? It's AI, it's robots, it's things that don't breathe that we're replacing people that do breathe with.
Yeah, I mean, that's why they're talking about giving a portion of the business to governments. But we'll see if that actually happens, how that happens. What's the minimum wage, or the what was that thing they were talking about a few years ago, where they had everybody would get a certain amount of money to spend.
Universal
Oh, a
income.
UBI,
Yeah,
a
universal
UBI.
income. Yeah, I mean those are things they're talking about, and it could actually come to pass for sure.
There was talk about so and that video is like a 10-minute video. I suggest everybody check it out if you're interested. Because I only cut it, I had to cut it off. But they talk about the potential of having some kind of AI usage tax for if you cut X amount of employees and use AI or robotics or whatever, you're going to have to pay a certain percentage tax if you have a net loss of employees for that. Do you think that'll fly?
It might.
No,
I can see them.
no.
All right, go ahead and explain. No, you said it very loud.
Oh no,
and proud.
I interrupted Pierre, so go ahead.
I was going to quickly say, I think from the manufacturing sector, I think you're going to see pushback, honestly.
The folks that have big lobbying dollars, you mean?
Well, I think it's a sort of, it starts trading dollars from hiring people, which has a certain effect, not just from the company, but maybe in the communities that they serve or they invest in to put a plant in, to instead of just having that, those dollars now are going to some sort of tax. I think companies that manufacture, even if it's a small level of manufacture, it's not necessarily automotive, probably would push back for that at least, because a tax would feel like dollars that should be going to some other type of investment. And we know how businesses are. When you say tax, that it's like, why are you taxing me more of this? So I can see that happening basically.
All right. Oh, Leland, you look like you're going to say something.
I'm just going to say, it's one of those systems that if we get to the point to where we have no workers that are not making money, then who's going to pay for these companies to utilize AI? It's a whole system that, could implode in on itself, to where if these companies, and it's a kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation, because if you do the AI, you're saving money, but potentially no longer having workers who no longer have money to no longer buy the products. But if you don't do the AI, then all these other companies are going to do the AI. They're going to do the work. They're going to get over you as a company, and you're going to employ yourself. It's just a, I guess what's gonna happen, what path are we going to go down? And I think that ultimately in the end we'll find a way to kind of meld, because we've been in situations like this before, to where all of a sudden massive amounts of people have been laid off because some industry is no longer dead. A lot of people like to go back to the horse and buggy kind of, it's like we have that whole economy gone, and we may have this whole economy of cell phones gone because of Elon Musk. I don't know, but this happens. We'll find jobs. You got to have purpose for people, or else madness sets in.
They can watch wrestling all day. Soap operas.
Yep, get her done.
But I mean, the thing is, there's so much upheaval that happened in the automobile industry. Literally, cities and towns were decimated, and still are. So there wasn't some, rescue for those guys. And I don't see there being some big rescue for people that are displaced by AI. You're just going to have to figure it out. You're going to move from this town and find a new job somewhere else. That's what's going to end up happening.
Does AI like buy lunch to eat or buy clothes and put gas in the tank? Or
But I mean, that's not the business owner's concern.
Well, the business owner's concern is customers, right?
Concern, and I don't think that's going to work.
Well, let's keep going back to this automotive thing. Why did Henry Ford price his cars the way he did?
Again, it was affordability. It was affordability
Of his employees, mostly.
Yeah, to have it's almost like think of it as a musician that has like a core set of fans. You have a core set of customers who that will buy vehicles. Even today, you could go to Ford, GM. There's a buyer discount for employee, and granted, if you're working at Ford and GM, naturally you're going to buy that brand of product. At Ford, you're going to buy a Lincoln. At GM, you're going to buy a Chevy or a GMC truck. But it's having your vehicles on the road, people seeing that still has a little bit of marketing for those manufacturers at a certain level. It may not be as granted, they got to break out beyond their employees, but it just still means that you have an audience who will buy your vehicle. And it is saying something, the point that Brent brought up about Ford making vehicles affordable now versus where cars are priced today as well. The whole $50,000 and, how much you're making payments and that type of thing. So,
yeah, I don't know this actual story, so I can't give you the history and make a good comment. But one thing I'm guessing is that was during the time of adoption more. So you're trying to bring a product to market. You'll discount a product to bring it to market and get people driving down the street. Then other people see that. It's like, oh, we should get one of those.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know the exact, story model around that, but I'm guessing part of that had to do with adopting a new product into market.
Yeah, I mean, it did, John. I think you're right on that, and I think as well, a little history in that. There's also that era of a town being built around a company. Look like with Gary, the steel mill. You literally had the steel mill and the homes being built around it. You had some level of community about that. You can look at things like for Pullman, back, that sort of thinking, I think, was also at play as well too. But it meant that you, as a business owner, you're at least thinking a little bit about not being so driven by profit that you're cutting off your nose to spite your face, sort of thing. That to make something and just not sell to you who could possibly be your best customers and most loyal customers in a certain way. That part comes into play as well.
Well, we're going to have to end here, but the other part of that story, because I did a little bit of looking into the Ford thing, it was not all just about like the machine, building up the machine line and getting people in and labor laws that he tried to keep out. But they also, guys like him and some other folks, they would try to build communities around their business so that they had quick access to the workers. So they did not only the affordable car thing, but they would try to make housing affordable around those facilities too, because they wanted to keep the workers and they wanted to keep the workers buying stuff that they were selling. It's an interesting thing, but kudos to Madam Mike Drop, because she's been wondering about that over and over and over again on this show for months. So just wanted to point that out. All right. Any last thoughts from anybody?
Stay safe. Take care of your health if you're affected by the Canadian smoke.
That's a good one. I guess I'll just add, if you're going to the Dairy Queen, you might just want to take a break from the weed and wash up a little bit. I'm sure everybody will appreciate it, except for Lawson, who was shaking his head. All right.
I'm shaking my head.
All right, folks. We will see you next Friday. Have a great weekend. Try to stay cool. It's still hot out there. We'll see you then.